enlightening, inspirational, powerfully refining, and unapologetically controversial. Conversations with the Royal Empress. The entire world knows the secret of who you are. Now is the time to step into your queendom and become the Royal Empress that you're meant to be. One woman at a time. Conversations with the Royal Empress. Now Akila, she's the analytical Empress. Akima, she's the Empress that will challenge you. Now, straighten up your crown and be elevated through conversations. Conversations with the Royal Empress.
Welcome to another episode of Conversations with the Royal Empress. This is Akila, and joining me is my co-host, Dr. Hakima. This week, our guest co-host is Lori Huggins, owner and founder of Integrative Advising Resources located in Florida. Lori is an academic advisor, clinician, and social justice and spiritual advocate. She states that she has a selfless love for the soul care of humanity, and she is here with us today to talk about just that, soul care. Welcome, Lori.
Thank you so much, Sister Akila, for having me today. I'm honored to be here. Thank you, Dr. Hakima. Thank you so much for having me. This is wonderful, and I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. So, Lori, I'm just going to give them a little brief excerpt from your bio, and then they'll be able to read that bio when we post the show. And so just a little bit about Lori. Lori is a native New Yorker. She holds a bachelor's degree in psychology from the College of New Rochelle and a master's of science in education with a concentration in counseling and student personnel services from Fordham University. She's also completed continuing education coursework in pastoral community counseling. Lori has clinical training, 13 years of teaching experience, and 8 years of academic advising. She has contributed to the community with her social activism. So she's a social activist, a mother, a spiritual practice advocate, and the author of her soon-to-be-released autobiography, Raising Me. And again, we are so honored to have you here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. And yes, I'm excited about the things that are forthcoming and looking forward to growing, even on a personal level, as a person, as a woman, and sharing some of the things that I have learned over the years, and just being the vessel that's open to be used by the Most High to service all of our people.
Wow, beautiful. And I was going to ask you to talk to us a little bit about yourself in your own words, but I think you've kind of done that.
There you go. There you go. That's it. I mean, that encapsulates everything and summarizes everything.
We were talking before we started the show. 2020, I think, has really been quite the test for humanity. And we hear a lot about self-care and how people have developed ways to take their minds off of things and what's going around and creating spaces to escape. But I'm wondering, are we actually nourishing and taking care of our souls? And part of that, I think, is tapping back into a spiritual place, a spiritual practice. How do we do that?
It really, you really have to sit back, and that question was posed to me earlier this week, and it was posed to a panel of different women. And we really have to unplug at this time, I feel, from things that inundate our minds that are negative. One of the ways that I feel that I have been successful at surviving during this particular season is to not let myself get inundated with unnecessary information and distractions. Now is a time to be focused, to be reflective, to go within. And I've done that. And like I was saying earlier this week, we have no choice at this point but to be stable and to think and to process and to think about the next move. I think it's a time to be very, very futuristic in our thought process in terms of what is next, in terms of what our agenda is collectively as a people as well, in terms of what our next step is. This has been a lesson. 2020 has been such a lesson. And we have to learn the lessons rather quickly at this point. And it means something different for each one of us. What you may be gleaning and gathering and what the Spirit may be speaking to you right now as Akila may be different than what it's speaking to me or Dr. Hakeem or anything like that. But we're all being, I feel dealt with by Spirit in terms of prioritizing our lives, rethinking and revamping where we're going directionally as a collective and as individuals. It is a time to reassess our lives. 2020 has forced you to do that, whether you want to take a look at it or not. It's making people look in the mirror. It's making you question whether you like what you see or if you don't like what you see. And if you don't like what you see, what are you going to do to make those changes so that in the future you do like what you see and you like where you're going? And if you weren't going anywhere, it's put a fire underneath you to get you and catapult you to your next level in terms of where you do need to be. So we have no choice. When your back is up against the wall and you're in survival mode and that fire has been lit to catapult you to where it is you're supposed to be, you're either going to go, you're going to either sink or swim. And I think that that's what 2020 has done to a lot of us and for us.
Woo! You know what? I agree with you, sis. It's funny because of social media, you know, you get to see, you know, people put their thoughts, you know, their actions out on display, and you really get to see how the 2020 has really affected people. You get to see who really is taking this time as a time to reassess, and those who are distracted by what's going on, entanglements and all of that. You know what I mean by that? Mm-hmm. So when you were talking, it's like you were saying, sink or swim. You got to get out of survival mode. It's time to move from survival mode to a spiritual mode. And you really get to see right now, there's two types of people, those who are remaining in survival mode and those who are moving towards a more spiritual mode. So hopefully by the end of this, more people would be on that spiritual side.
Yes. In terms of thriving and not just surviving.
Yes.
It's time for us to thrive as a people and explore new avenues and ways to do that in this time. Because some of the things, as we know, they're being stripped from us right before our very eyes. It seems like all the foundations that were laid and all the work that has been done, even over the last 150 years, if you really want to assess it from a historical vantage point, there's a lot of undoing and unraveling of the things that we have built, or an attempt to do so. I should say an attempt to do so, because they really can't do it. Some things are interwoven into the fabric of who we are ancestrally in terms of our DNA. And there are things that we have overcome that nobody will ever be able to take from us. They can try. They can try to do it through legislature, policy, other avenues, but the spirit and essence of who we are as a people can never be undone. There are attempts, but I think we do need to look at new avenues in terms of being who we are, in terms of thriving instead of surviving. And like you said, transcending past the survival mode into a place of abundance. And abundance doesn't necessarily have to be materialistic. Abundance is holistic, you know, and that's how this has taught us, you know, a lot about our healthcare, a lot about how we're perceived, a lot about how people treat us. Our perception of ourselves is so basically prevalent and important, and it's imperative that we perceive ourselves a certain way, because then the world then will perceive us differently. And somebody was saying that to me this morning as well, that we'll never have our respect until we respect ourselves. And we have to, you know, it's unfortunately that we still have to demand our respect, but we have to come out of begging. And, you know, looking at what happened yesterday, even with the revisiting the March on Washington, I don't know how beneficial that really, really was. What is the testimony of that? What does it testify to? Does it testify to true progress? Or does it testify to the fact that we appear to be going in circles, even after 55 years later, that we still have to have a March on Washington and be talking about injustice and Jacob Blake and Breonna Taylor and the George Floyds? You know, it makes you really, really, really sit back and think, do we need to take a different avenue and direction toward our progress as a people and as a collective? Is this approach really working, or are we using outdated methods that are no longer viable for 2020 and the 21st century?
And, you know, that's going to lead me to going back even further in the past. I told you this topic reminded me of W.B. Du Bois' book, The Souls of Black Folk. And I want to read this excerpt and just give me your thoughts and feelings. And I really want the audience to listen to it and to think about what do they feel and what are they thinking when they hear this. And so W.B. Du Bois says in his book, it is a peculiar sensation, this double consciousness, the sense of always looking at oneself through the eyes of others, of measuring one's soul by the tape of a world that looks on in an amused contempt and pity. One ever feels his two-ness, an American, a Negro, two souls, two thoughts, two unreconciled strivings, two warring ideals in one dark body, whose dogged strength alone keeps it from being torn asunder.
That's powerful. That's powerful. And I'm thinking about, with that question, the duality, and we were discussing it a little bit earlier in terms of the question that I posed on social media less than 24 hours ago: do you consider yourself an American? And as I was stating before, that the answers are varied. But a lot of us, with all that has been happening in the year of 2020 and even prior to that, don't feel like Americans. What is an American? And we have always had to live historically with that duality, being, you know, accepted, trying to assimilate into a culture that rejects us over and over again and has notoriously and historically done so for the last 400 years, and still trying to be accepted in that culture. So what is an American? What is an African American? And I think, you know, Du Bois was asking the same question with being, you know, the Negro in that day and time. How are we defining ourselves? What I concluded today, as I sat back and I pondered my own question with the other comments that were in that particular forum, and I said, we have to have the power to define ourselves. The problem with being in the United States is that someone else has always defined us, always defined what our culture is. In the media, we see that today. We're being defined. Black people, you know, are mostly essential workers. Now, all three of us know that that is not the truth. We are not all essential workers. We're not all working in the grocery store. Not all of us have bad health care. But yet some of our brothers and sisters have been adversely affected by the COVID-19, who were in wonderful, stellar health, who had wonderful health care. But again, our narrative is being retold by somebody else through the lens of someone else and being disseminated in the media across the globe as to who we are. So my thought process is that we need to get to a place where we are defining who we are for ourselves and not allowing other people to tell our narrative and disseminate our narrative in a way that may not be truthful and may not be valid and may not be accurate. So defining who we are is so important in that, and examining that duality of being an American versus being an African, if you will, or what is an African American? Who defines that?
Yeah, and I think it has a direct impact on our souls in general, you know, and part of the struggle that we have, even with our spirituality and what that looks like and how, and it is. And I mean, that's a heavy burden to carry.
It is.
You know, two souls?
Right. Divided, you know, in duality. And we can either merge the dualities together to help them to balance one another, or we can remain divided if we don't do the work to understand historically what happened to us, to understand it from a spiritual aspect, and putting the two pieces together and allowing them to mesh and gleaning from the two experiences that we have as dual citizens, in a sense, in this Western hemisphere. Examining historically what that has done to us as a people, and healing and working toward becoming whole.
Yeah, I think that, I was having this conversation with some coworkers, and I posed the question of, why are you so emotionally invested in what's going on? I said, we're like toddlers. We have to engage the environment, and we get so emotional by our engagement. So I posed a question to him. I said, why are you so engaged with what's going on? Why are you letting that define your spiritual state of mind at this moment in time? And so often we witness it on social media, where people are getting so caught up in, like, Jada Pinkett Smith and who she's sleeping with. I can't understand why we're so concerned with what man some women sleep with. It's beyond me, but we're not concerned with who our children sleeping with. So it amazes me how we're so engaged with our environment, but not necessarily engaged with ourselves spiritually, emotionally, morally, physically, and not engaged with our children. So it's interesting how our approach is so primitive, it's so childlike, until we can just approach this from an adult level where we hold ourselves accountable. I think we'll be in a better situation. We're like a person that's undercover. And when you go undercover for so long, you start to believe that you are the character that you're playing or you're portraying. And we're to the point, we believe that we're Americans. We believe that we're Caucasian. We want the Caucasian dream, the 2.5 house and the kids, and however that little term is, 2.5 kids in a house and a picket fence and all of that. We as Black women believe that we're white women. We walk around here looking like a Caucasian woman, talking like her, believing in this feminist movement. So we totally lost track of who we are, and we need to regain who we are.
It's so true. It's so true. I think of, when you said that, I thought of Fanon's Black Skin and White Mask immediately. That's the first thing that came to my mind. And it's the truth, that assimilation. And then I think about internalized racism, how we then internalize racism on ourselves, and, all the self-hatred aspects, the trying to deny our Blackness and enmesh in somebody else's culture. I looked at today the word culture because someone came on that same chat, and I learned so much from people. I love it. That's why I pose these questions, so that I can learn. And he says, yeah, but we have a culture. And I said, let me play the excerpt from Dr. Khalid Muhammad back in the day on Public Enemy's Night of the Living Faceheads intro. Okay, he says, do you realize that when we were brought here, we lost we were robbed of our name, robbed of our language, we lost our religion, our culture, our God, and many of us, by the way we act, we've even lost our minds. I said, that's right. We don't have a culture, brother. We do, but it's a diluted, bastardized culture. Okay, and it's not a full-on African culture. We've had to work our way back. We tried to keep little elements and traces of it. He goes, but we have soul food. I said, yeah, and it's killing us. It's killing us. It's giving us bad heart. Yeah, and it's killing the soul, Yeah. And we have hip hop. I said, okay, yeah, and hip hop is derived from many types of storytelling aspects in African culture. So yes, it is derived from the motherland, but we're so diluted as a people when you look at what happened to us. I said, a culture, you have a language. We have Ebonics, he says. I said, that's a dialect, honey. I said, that's a dialect. It's not a language. That's younger. He was younger, That's not a language, honey. That's a dialect. I said, now if you want to talk about Gullah, with the Gullah Geechee Islands and Aquila, and then you know about that with the whole the retreat in South Carolina, we draw on that energy. That's a little bit closer to our origins. That's a little bit closer. But when you want to get into, and hip hop is great. I love hip hop. I'm from the Bronx. I love all that. But that's not the essence of who I am as a Black woman.
That's right. Yes. So we have introduced many things into the American culture.
Right.
We've given many gifts and many talents
Yes.
to the culture, but it doesn't make it.
No.
It's because
You
we
know.
don't teach the origin. We don't teach the origin of it. So like the person mentioned hip hop, that's wonderful, but where does hip hop originate from? And so it loses its value amongst our people, and the ability of using it as a tool to uplift or further uplift our people when we don't know the origin of things.
Yeah.
And
Not to
so
mention
it's nice we could say hip hop, but you don't even know that goes way back to Africa. It's like we think, it started over here in New York. Yeah, what we know or what we've grown to be hip hop did, but where did it really originate?
Yeah.
Where did it really come from? We've lost our connection to the motherland, and we have to know that everything we do now, it connects back to the motherland. I saw a dance. I was watching something, and it was in Africa, and it was an old film of a dance, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, we're doing that right now. You know what I'm saying? So what we think we're creating, or what we think that we're coming up with, really is us connecting to our ancestors. We're just bringing it all back into fruition. It's being recirculated back into our society.
Yeah. But also understanding that, and I always like to point this out, Africa is a continent filled with multiple cultures.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So absolutely, guys, because, we will say that, but Ghana is going to be different from Nigeria.
Absolutely.
And Nigeria is different from Ethiopia. And Ethiopia is different from Somalia, and so on and so on and so on. So even though there are still some commonalities. So, so we have, I don't know. It's just amazing. But we are really searching for something for ourselves and how it impacts our souls. And we have to take care of it. We have to take care of our souls. We really do. What about our activism? How does social activism, what impact does it have on our souls?
It defines your purpose.
Mm.
In terms of the spiritual aspect of activism, you have to be a bona fide, genuine activist. You have to be selfless. We talked about that altruistic spirit, in terms of altruism and the love of humanity and selflessness and being magnanimous, if you will. It's tiring. Activism is tiring. So you always, when you're involved on the front lines of activism, you have to have a place of self-care for you, where you re-up, where you rejuvenate, where you find your sacred space to be renewed. Because if you go out there and you're constantly on the front lines of activism, Black people will tire you. We are hard to work with. We are hard to work for. We are unappreciative. We're like spoiled children. Okay? Where's mine? You're supposed to help me. They owe us. They owe. And I said, I had that conversation as well 2 weeks ago. I said, you know what? In reality, I said, we got to save ourselves. We have got to get to the place where we have to stop looking for someone to come and rescue us. It's about coming together collectively. Yes, we need leaders, and we talked about that before with needing leaders. Yes, we do. Realistically, we do. I'm not saying that we have to be total lone rangers out here with no direction, because without leaders and people put in place, you have an army that's just going every which way, and you're scattered and you never get anything done if there's no organization. So I'm with that. I'm with the importance of having organization. But in terms of giving out to people, you have to have a space for yourself that is dedicated to the renewal of your energy centers, that is dedicated to the renewal of your spirit, the renewal of your mind, so that you have something to give back to people. You cannot run on E and be an activist and run on empty. You have to refuel, or you'll have nothing left to give to the people. And you'll get burnt out and you'll get tired, and we won't want to do this any longer. It's so easy to tire from the work. I'm not going to sit up here and say that it's not. There have been times where I've been totally frustrated, where I had to take a step back, because nobody can hurt you more than your own people. You expect certain things from the other man. You expect things from white folks. You expect things from other people of other dynamics and races and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes from your own people, nothing hurts. Like they say, nothing hurts like church hurt, or if you're within the mosque, wherever your dedicated place is, that hurts too. But when it comes from your people, it is something else. And it makes you sometimes want to give up and not do the work. I've been there where I was like, I don't want to do this no more. I'm sick of y'all. No more. Enough. It's not profiting us. We're not getting nowhere. I'm going in circles. I'm sitting out of this. And I threw up my hands and said, forget about it. But then I always wind up coming back because I love my people that much. So my advice and my word of wisdom with regards to activism and how that relates to the soul is that you've got to replenish, and you've got to have a place where you are poured into, so that your reservoir does not run on empty, and you can continue to give out and give back to your community wherever the Most High has placed you. It is your assignment. Be committed to that assignment wherever you are placed. When it's time for you to shift, know when it's time for you to shift gears. And be okay with that. And be okay with that. And be open to different methods and different approaches to activism. Because we can't keep doing the same methods over and over again, because they get tired, and then our adversary can study us and pretty much predict what we're going to do next. So be open to different methodologies. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because we are kind of predictable.
Yeah, we can be. Yeah.
We're so emotional. You can definitely predict somebody's behavior if they're highly emotional or driven by emotion.
Exactly. I agree.
I mean, I work in a prison, so when I'm dealing with these young men, when I'm explaining things to them, and I always tell them, what do I teach you? The rise above emotion, because if you're driven by emotion, you're going to be pegged. You're going to be looked at a certain way, because your behavior is going to be predictable. You're going to act out. Because as Black people, we act out like we acting out now, out in the street acting a fool, because we acting out. We don't like the terms, the conditions, but that's a childlike response, man. We got to rise above that. We have to rise to a level of adulthood, because that's acting out, or that emotion is like a child. So when your oppressor treats you a certain way, you start tearing up neighborhoods. I mean, you start tearing up your own. I mean, I understand the frustration, and we know what's the best way to hit power. You hit them in their pocket. But the real motive of many of why we out there is just acting out, just a way to act out our emotions, our frustration, our anger. So we got to find a spiritual outlet, like you said, sister. We find a spiritual outlet, then we can control our behaviors better, because we have outlets that we can use from day to day.
Exactly. And the anger and the emotional outbursts are counterproductive to the progress of our agenda. So, looking at it from a spiritual vantage point and taking it from that aspect, not religion per se, because people are tired of religion, because they feel like it's not profiting or benefiting or helping us to progress. But like you said, just redirecting it and having that spiritual base, and recognizing that some of our behaviors are counterproductive to our success is the best thing to do. Sit back and think about it logically and reflect and be strategic in our activism.
All right. The pandemic. The pandemic. The social climate right now. How we got to protect ourselves. And so we kind of touched on that, even as far as activism, because I think that we all have a level of activism, whether it's out there for the world to see or not. But we are in a climate right now that we really have to start focusing on protecting our souls right now. What are some things that we can do? What should we be doing?
In terms of protecting the soul, I mean, with the pandemic, I feel like you have to protect the whole person, both spirit, soul, and body, and of course the mind. It's you have to protect yourself holistically in this pandemic. You have a group of people that are in conversation about what's going on. You have one group that feels that this pandemic is still somewhat of a hoax. And it is a movement and a rollout for us to get prepared for what is coming with martial law and the New World Order. This is the conversation that's been circulating. And a lot of people feel that wearing the mask, they are anti-mask. And they have politicized this virus to be something between pro-mask, anti-mask, New World Order, don't take the vaccine when it comes. This is all a conspiracy to bring us into something deeper that is forthcoming in the future that is going to totally take away our rights as a people, and we will be on lockdown in an authoritarian society. Okay, so this is the conversation that has been going on. And I think we're in a very dangerous space concerning the pandemic because you get so much misinformation going out and being circulated about what it is, about how we're supposed to respond, about how we're supposed to protect ourselves. The rules change from week to week. The CDC sends us a different message each and every day in terms of how to protect ourselves. Now, in terms of the spiritual aspect of it, I can tell you something that sounds cliche-ish and tell you that we need to be prayed up and we need to really go within. And someone said that was their message initially when the pandemic broke, that this is the time to go within because we are on lockdown, we are quarantined, spend that time going within and empower yourself so that when you go out, you are divinely protected and all of this. And that sounds really good. And that is true. There's some validity to that as well. And I will tell you that that is true. But at the same time, this is a time to not be misinformed. I can't stress that enough. Getting right information. I had, even family members that I had to sit down with and say, look, that's misinformation that you have. And you're going out here willy-nilly because you've been ill-advised and you're not reading the current information that's out there. So we have to protect ourselves on multiple levels in terms of mind, body, and spirit. What we're taking in information-wise, how much information we're taking in. I think sitting in front of the television, listening to things on repeat for hours and hours and hours is totally unhealthy, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. I think you need to get your information for the day, keep it short and sweet. Get as much as you can, know what's going on around you in your local area, with the people in your immediate atmosphere and environment, know what's going on scientifically, check it out, check out the stats, and then leave it alone for the day. Don't sit there and allow yourself to be programmed and let them download fear. Okay, the fear mongering is not healthy for the body. That'll make you sick in of itself. That's gonna lower your immune system right then and there. You're already paralyzed and gripped by fear. And now your white blood cell count is off and everything else. Diet-wise, utilize the things that are gonna re-up your body. I know me and Akila had talked about that earlier, a couple days ago, in terms of having your spirulina, having, changing those things in your diet where you've been slacking off, getting rid of the sugar, anything that's going to throw the immune system off, getting the black seed oil out, getting your colloidal silver drops, if you have them, to boost the immune system and knock out viruses, the elderberry, the zinc, all of that. Use your weapons, become educated about what your body responds best to. Black seed oil may work for me, spirulina may work for me, but it may cause you to have an allergic reaction and make your situation worse. So now your immune system is really thrown off. So, you have to know and be knowledgeable. So I say in this time, acquiring proper knowledge, the right knowledge, sitting there, not becoming obsessed with what's going on because that's not healthy for us spiritually or physically. And just having the right approach, going out there, put on your mask. I'm pro-mask. I'm sorry. I'm not with this, anti-mask. They're trying to take away my rights. Not when my people are dying. And I've seen that in reality, and my people are getting sick. Most of the people that I've known through the pandemic that have gotten COVID-19 have recovered, thank God. Mm-hmm. But I know of people that didn't have that story. Okay, so it's a very serious thing not to take lightly. It's just the flu, it's just the cold, it's just, no. And there are people that still think like that, especially down here in Florida, sisters. Mm-hmm. In Florida, you see it, it's prevalent. White folks are going around maskless, a lot of them. I've
That's
had
why
a
they
white
give it.
person come in my space. I'm sitting in my car. I want to get out of my car. She sees me. I'm in the lot. She knows I want to get out of my car. She stops in front of my car to walk her dog, pauses, and takes a deep breath into the air and exhales and then walks off.
Are you serious? Yes, devil.
Yeah, absolutely.
Devilish
Absolutely.
behavior.
Okay. So
That's
all of
insane.
these
Behavior.
pathologies are coming out with people.
Yes.
I'm seeing sick, crazy behaviors as a result of COVID-19. I mean, but it's really a stark contrast down here in Florida. You'll see brothers and sisters more masked up than you will see white folks.
Yes, true. I've seen that too.
Yeah, that's crazy. And
Yeah.
I'm pro-mask too, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Go out with your weapons, your gloves, your sanitizer, your alcohol, whatever it is that you use, and several masks in your car on stash.
That's right.
No, I'm one of those people who believe it's not what they say it is. I've been there from the beginning. But to those I say who feel that way, it's a conspiracy or whatever, still wear your mask. That don't mean that because you wear a mask that you buying into this.
Right.
Sometimes to see stuff for what it is, you gotta lay low.
That's right.
So lay low, check it. It's not going to hurt you to take care of your immune system anyway, because our immune system fights over 300,000 viruses a day anyway. So you should already been taking care of immune system.
That's
right.
So
what's wrong with taking elderberry at this time? What's wrong with taking moringa? I drink moringa tea a lot. What's wrong with the spirulina? What's wrong with all of those things? Just because you use those things don't mean that you succumb to this so-called reality. You could still be smart and not really buy into it. I was talking to some friends and I said, this coronavirus is not my reality. I'm just going to say it. And they were saying, stress said, I'm not trying to say that I'm acting like it doesn't exist, because I do. But the point of the matter is I'm not trying to let this drive my spirit. And sometimes you just got to know that this can't be the source of your information. It can't be the source of your strength. If you stay plugged with the Lord, He'll guide you. If it's somewhere you don't feel right, gut feeling said, don't go in there, don't go in there, because you might get corona. You know what I'm saying? So we have to be spirit-led today and not fear-led, like you said, Sister Lord.
That's right.
I have a question for you, though, because, at this time, people are confused. You mentioned how people they're demonstrating behavior that they shouldn't be demonstrating. They're out their minds. This is definitely a time of growth and development, but often people need mentoring in order for them to achieve growth and development. How important do you think mentoring is at this time?
I think it's of the utmost importance. I think even mentors need a mentor. Because it never ends. It never ends. Learning never, ever stops. But I think mentoring is of the utmost importance. A lot of the times there are things and gaps in the information that was given to us, even in our developmental years, that our parents left out. Some information, because they couldn't be objective in terms of parenting us and guiding us in the right direction, or they themselves didn't have the information. Sometimes we need to be mentored by other people who can see us more objectively, who can guide us in the right direction, who can give us information that maybe our parents didn't have. They're not going to be able to do everything for us. And basically who can guide people along the path. Now, you have this group and this generation that thinks that they know it all and feel that they don't have to be mentored by anybody. They came here on the planet already knowing everything. But for those that are willing to be mentored and guided, I think it's of the utmost importance that you get that information, that somebody can lay a blueprint and a foundation for you that's gone before you in terms of where you're trying to go, and that can tell you what not to do in terms of the pitfalls and how to avoid those pitfalls that they themselves perhaps fell into, so that your journey in terms of your navigation to get to where you need to go is a lot smoother than theirs. So I think that that's authentic mentorship, is just being transparent as a mentor. I think that's of the utmost importance. And I do think our young people need it, and I think people of all ages need it at some point in their life. To be mentored and to be guided on the path, because we don't know everything. We don't know everything, and there are a lot of unnecessary missteps that we make. And I look at my own life. I said, well, if I had maybe somebody a little bit more clung, and I had mentors, but if I had clung more consistently to the path that that person was trying to lay out for me, perhaps my road and my journey to get there would have been a lot smoother, and I could have avoided some of those stumbling blocks along the way and those obstacles. So we have to be humble, and we have to know that we don't always have all the answers, and allow those God-given, God-sent people to come into our lives that have been assigned to our lives to help direct us and get us to the place so that we can maximize our fullest potential as people on the earth, and utilize every single gift that we have been given to the glory of the Most High God. I think that's of the utmost importance. If we go out of here not utilizing those things and maximizing our potential, we wasted precious time. We wasted valuable space. And somebody else will come along and take our place and do the assignment and do the work and get the work done that we were supposed to get, that we didn't fulfill, our purpose and our divine calling. So yes, if you feel that somebody has been sent to your life to guide you and help you and assist you along the path and be a midwife to birth you out and birth those wonderful qualities, divine qualities in you out, please cling to your mentors. Stay with them. Don't get frustrated, because you can get frustrated with your mentors too, and your mentors can certainly get frustrated with you. But be a good mentee and listen and glean from what they have to say and deposit into your life so that your life can be better, and then you can go ahead and pay it forward and pass it on to somebody else and mentor somebody else and bring them along as well. Each one teach one, right?
You always got it ended out with all giving praise due to the Most High. So that was a beautiful ending. It's time for our challenges, everyone. Y'all know what time it is. And I got quite a few challenges because Sister just laid them all out for us, made my job real easy. Number one challenge is it's time for reassessment, not just personally, but collectively. I like to say this all the time at work. We always say when something is beyond our control, we're like, hey, it's bigger than Nino Brown. You know what I mean? We always say that at work, and we enjoy saying it. But the whole point is, it's not always just about us. And there are some things that's beyond us, beyond our control. Let's come together collectively so that we can achieve it. The second challenge is, what is the collective agenda? See, we don't even have an agenda. You got a group over here talking about reparations. You got a group over here talking about another thing. We have to come together, and we have to come together and come up with a collective agenda. Challenge number 3, we talk about abundance. Everybody wants abundance of money. They want abundance of things, but we need to be seeking spiritual and moral abundance. Sister, thank you for mentioning that, because we need it. We are so off point. We need to number 4, we need to redefine who we are as a people. We don't know who we are. Are we American? Are we African American? Are we Black? What are we? We need to be trying to redefine that. We need to come on the same page. Challenge number 5 is move away from subcultures. Oh my God, I'm so tired of us as a people. I defining ourselves based off of subcultures. Cultures that we created, but this is not our main culture. We need to connect to our original culture. Got to connect back to the motherland. Challenge number 6, develop your selflessness and altruistic behavior. We have to focus on something beyond ourselves, because we should be using ourselves as a sacrifice for the greater good of our people. Number 7, take care of self in order to serve the masses. See, there are a lot of people who have a desire to want to go out and be social activists, but in order to do that, the missing ingredient is you got to take care of yourself, or you ain't gonna have no energy to deal with people. Like our sister Lori said, our people would tire you out. They would make you give up. You'd be like, I'm tired, I'm throwing in the towel, I'm sick of this. So that's very key. Challenge number 8, protect yourself in this pandemic. Whether you agree with this pandemic or not, protect yourself. Wear your mask. Respect the laws of the land. If the land says wear a mask, wear a mask. You don't have to agree with it. Just because you don't agree with it don't mean you don't have to follow the law. Respect your peers. If people around you are wearing masks, that means they would like for you to wear one also. So protect yourself. Protect yourself mentally. Stay off social media, giving your information. Social media is just for entertainment purposes, not for you to use as information where you base your life off of. Come on, people, we bigger than that. Also, be mindful of what you put in your body in this time. Protecting yourself holistically is very important. Eating the right foods, taking the right herbs. Let's do better, people. And lastly, 20. Everybody want to know, what does 2020 mean to them? 20 in numerology is a number of empowerment. So you got double empowerment, 2020. people, let's use this as a time to empower ourselves. Empower the God in us, the good in us, not empower the devil in us. Because there's a lot of empowerment out there for the worst. So let's not do that. Let's not let other people influence us. We are the original people, so we should only be influenced by the original. Those are my challenges.
So, Lori, we want to give you the last word. What would you like to leave our listeners with today?
Oh, just continue to rest, have a balanced life. And this, I'm speaking also to myself. Rest is essential. Balance your life, enjoy your life. A lot of people, because of what's been going on in our society this year, have ceased to enjoy life, but yet don't go out there and be reckless because you think that the worst is over. Be prudent, use wisdom, be prayerful, be reflective, but find balance. I think because of what has been going on all this year, the pandemic, the social unrest, a lot of people have been knocked off kilter. We're going from one extreme thought process to another extremity, and we need to get our balance back. Our internal compass has been knocked off a little bit. We're a little off kilter. Our equilibrium internally has been knocked off a little bit. So it's about finding balance, coming together. Again, that word duality was introduced in the beginning of our conversation, blending. I can't help but have the image of the yin and the yang during this time, and seeing everything come together full circle, intermeshed, back in alignment with where we need to be. So proper restoration of alignment in 2020 as we close out the year, as we get closer and closer to fall. This is a time, fall represents the harvest. We're taking in things, we're harvesting, we're getting nestled in. The weather will change in some climates and some regions, and we just want to be prepared for what's next. Properly prepared for what's next and what's on the horizon, and prudently prepared for what is next. So that is the thought that I leave with you: preparation for your next, and optimism for the future. We've had a very dismal year. Some people have been very pessimistic, a lot of loss, a lot of bereavement, a lot of financial loss. People have just been ransacked emotionally, spiritually, financially. And we need to have a spirit of optimism for what's next, and that our next and that our tomorrow is going to be brighter than our yesterday.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if someone would like to work with you, obtain your services, how should they go about that? How do they get in touch with you?
Visit my website at integrativeadvising.com. You can email me at loriadvises@gmail.com. Again, that's integrativeadvising.com. My company is Integrative Advising Resources. We do holistic coaching, we do career counseling, we do academic coaching, educational consulting, and also for the holistic spiritual side of things, we do that kind of coaching and counseling as well. So that is where I can be reached, and of course on Facebook at Lori Huggins as well.
Thank you so much, Lori. Once again, thank you, listeners, for listening to Conversations with the Royal Empress, and we'll see you next episode.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Conversations with the Royal Empress. Tune in next week for another enlightening conversation. For more information on the Royal Empress, please visit the website royalempress.org. You can also follow the Royal Empress on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Conversations with the Royal Empress is a subsidiary of the Royal Empress organization. All rights reserved.